Good morning, everybody. Deacon Tim Wyman here from the Cathedral of Christ the King. Well, actually, I'm not at the Cathedral of Christ the King. I'm virtually at the Cathedral of Christ the King. But welcome. It's Thursday, 10 o'clock, bright, beautiful day outside, and welcome to everybody for the Parish Coffee Hour with Father Paul and friends. So I'd like to throw it over to our beloved rector, Father Paul. Take it away.
Well, good morning, everyone. Like Tim, I'm at home rather than at the...
I'm not hearing you, Father Paul.
Okay, I unmuted. Can you hear me now?
No, I'm not hearing you.
Ooh.
Are you hearing him, Kim?
I am. Can you hear me, Tim?
Wait a minute. Okay, go ahead.
I can hear you, Kim.
Okay.
Must be
Well,
on
good morning,
my end. It's on
Good
my
morning,
end.
everyone.
Go ahead.
It's good to be with you. I'm looking out over our playground at the school, and it's a good spot to be at because our guest today is Kim Thompson. Kim has really been a dedicated parishioner for years. She's centered her life on Christ the King and has been part of our faculty. Now she's branched out in a larger way. She works on behalf of the diocese with the Catholic Education Opportunities Foundation, and we're going to be talking about that. But first of all, I think we'll just talk a little bit about your career here at Christ the King School, Kim. Welcome. Glad you're with us today. And again, it's a beautiful day, and I think we'll have some good and stimulating conversation as we talk. And as we do so, we'll just place ourselves in the presence of the Lord and trust that the Lord will bless us and all our listeners with any insight and any inspiration that we need. Kim, how long were you a faculty member at Christ the King, at the school here?
I actually started teaching at Christ the King right out of college in 1992. So I spent 28 years of my career until I moved on last February. I had kind of an interesting start that some of our parishioners that are listening may know a little bit about this. But so when I was in second grade, our family relocated, the Dugans relocated to Lexington. My parents tried to get me into Christ the King, and it was there was a waiting list. So around Christmas time, the principal at the time called my mom and said, "There's an opening." And so I vividly remember coming into the school to meet my teacher, Mrs. Mary Pearson, who taught. She was on the faculty for many years as well.
Oh my God.
I remember my first Holy Communion that year very vividly, even as a young person. So then I went on to fifth grade, and Mrs. Mary Pearson was my teacher again. So we developed this friendship over the years, and my love for Christ the King continued. In college, one of my part-time jobs was to work for the extended daycare program. And I was getting ready to graduate, and the principal at the time, Maureen Clerkin, invited me to interview for a fifth grade position. I had my one and only interview. My mother had bought me a suit for all of my interviews, and I was blessed to be hired onto Christ the King's faculty and teach opposite of my second and fifth grade teacher, Mary Pearson. So it was really a wonderful time. She helped, bring me through those, first few years. And I taught fifth grade for many years. And then I moved to a program that I developed called the Success Program. And that was to help our struggling students in the school. We needed someone that, could help keep them on track, very similar to the program that Christ the King has today. And then just time would have it, I moved back into the classroom and taught fourth grade for many years. And then it was during that time that our principal at the time, Karen McNay, asked me to consider helping with admissions. And it was just helping and, kind of part-time, give some tours. Well, it morphed into a lot more than that and kept me very busy. And I was helping with our fundraisers, Big Blue Fling and Oktoberfest. And so our principal realized that it was a lot to handle with the teaching duties. So I moved into the library as a part-time elementary librarian, which I loved, sharing literature with the little ones and being able to be with the little ones because I had never worked with preschool through, third grade. So we had, library classes, and I worked on those other fundraisers and things.
About how old were you when you knew you wanted to be a teacher?
Oh gosh, probably 6 years old. Always played school. Always played school in the basement. My poor younger brother, he had to be the student.
Well, I'm sure you were a good and kind teacher for him. What was involved with setting up the Success Program? Was that like something that you had, I guess you went to UK, had you done some work in, like remedial studies and things like that?
I actually started out at UK. I spent a year and a half there, and then I transferred to Transylvania University,
Okay.
and that's where my degree came from. We just had a need at Christ the King. It was just becoming more and more evident with large classes that there were students, especially in middle school, that, were really struggling and just needed some help. And so my success classes were 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And so they would come to me several days a week, and, we would study for tests and quizzes. I would help them with Kathy, them work on social studies outlines, and I would work on those kinds of things with them, and just really keep them on track. And then we also had a need for someone to go into the classrooms and observe, whether it was a kindergartner really struggling, observe their behaviors and, kind of work on that, those notes and things, and then gather the right people to, help find some solutions for their struggles academically. Mm-hmm. So it was really a wonderful time. We ended up, having to, just with some enrollment issues and whatnot, that program went away and I went back into the classroom. But then, after a few years, the teachers really felt like there was a need to bring something of that back. Mm-hmm. And so Christ the King did.
Over those 28 years, again, it might be hard to narrow it down to one thing, but how would you respond to the question of what did you enjoy most during your time at Christ the King School over those 28 years?
I have to say that, while I love teaching and loved being with the children, my favorite times and things that I did involved more of the admissions office, giving families, tours of the school, and that happened 3 or 4 days a week pretty consistently. The teachers were, always so kind to let me drop by. I took families into the classrooms. I wanted them to get a feel for, the warm environment, the loving environment. The children, were always, for the most part, happy, and parents could sense that. And so that brought me great joy. It was really neat to see these teachers in action. I kind of had a little window into that you don't always get when you're in your own classroom.
Mhm.
Um, then I took over some of the marketing and communications, which I really enjoyed. I learned a lot. I was not trained in that area, so I had to, especially with social media, I really had to train myself, and so that was a lot of fun. And especially loved fundraising. I just, we had Big Blue Fling really grew over the years, and I've worked with a lot of wonderful parents and fellow faculty members. We worked so hard for that to be a success, because we knew how important it was to our families to help keep tuition, very reasonable. Oktoberfest really morphed as well into something a lot greater than how it started so many years ago when I was a student. It was just a little carnival in the field. And so that was fun, especially growing the area of sponsorships and entertainment. We brought in a lot of big name acts over the years. They were sometimes one hit wonders, but it was fun to be involved with that. And, the phone would really ring off the hook throughout the year. People, in the central Kentucky region wanting to know how they could be a part of Oktoberfest, and, what they could do and how they could be involved. And, sponsorships were, pretty easy to come by, because, we had the media exposure, and lots of folks on the property that weekend. So I'm really hoping that we really missed that last year. And I think as a parish and a school, and those of us on the committee, so I'm hopeful that Oktoberfest 2021 will be able to occur.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like the range of experiences and the success that you've had, Adam, that speaks to some skills, made you a pretty good fit for the Catholic Education Opportunities Foundation position. It's probably a new topic for some of our listeners. So, can you do like Catholic Educational Opportunities Foundation 101 and just tell us about it and what its mission is and how it got started and things like that?
Yes, absolutely. So I am the executive director of Catholic Education Opportunities Foundation. I'm the only employee at this time, but we have a very strong board. Bishop John is part of that board. We also have a very strong leadership council. These are folks that either join themselves or as a couple, and they are from all different parishes in the diocese. As sometimes we think of the Diocese of Lexington just being Lexington only and Lexington schools, but we have 12 elementary schools in central and eastern Kentucky. So we span all the way to Ashland and Paintsville. So there are, lots of opportunities for Catholic education, in those regions. But sometimes, as everyone knows, tuition can be an obstacle. Finances can be an obstacle. And so it's our desire to help provide some tuition assistance to the schools so that they can help families, in addition to their tuition assistance programs their dollars they already have. Now, this particular foundation started way before they hired me. It goes back about, I think, maybe about 5 or 6 years. And it started with the bishop and Father Dan Knoll and a group who got together, really focusing on some of the horse farms and the horse farm employees, their children, and how could they help with those children to be able to get them into our schools. And then they quickly realized that there were that it needed to be bigger than that. And it didn't need to be just, focused on one group. And so over the course of several years, they did a lot of groundwork so that by the time I jumped on board in February, many of the things that needed to be done to, establish us as a nonprofit, to begin talking to folks and seeing what the interest was and building the board and whatnot. A lot of that foundation was in place before I walked in. Now February 1st of last year, took over, started doing some things to help with our public face, kind of building the foundation of the foundation publicly. And of course, 6 weeks later, the pandemic hit, and, we pretty much kind of, as in the world shut down, whether it was, fundraising or, just school life, and, everything was in such flux. And so it was pretty quiet there for a little bit. And I, just really got to thinking and went to the board and said, as a former admissions director, I know there will be students who were abruptly pulled out of their schools that they loved in March to learn virtually, that their family's financial picture will have changed and they probably won't be able to return to their school families. And unless we do something, unless we look at some immediate relief fundraising. So that's what we did. And pretty much from May until August, really hit the ground running with all of that. And I was so pleased to report to the board that we had sent our distributions out at the beginning of August to the principals, and I asked for some statistics, and we were able to, in the 12 schools, 27 children were able to return to the schools they probably would not have been able to without our assistance. And that included a few new ones, but for the most part, just really helping out those families that, were hit hard last spring financially. So that really gave us a boost as a board and leadership council that, we can make a difference. Now, the idea of, or the concept of this particular, type of work is new to the Diocese of Lexington, but it's not new across the United States. Cincinnati has a similar foundation that's been in place for years. Covington, the Diocese of Covington, has one. Kansas City has a very strong one. Los Angeles. And then just in our back door, the Archdiocese of Louisville, they have been in existence since the early 90s. They have impacted, they impact, 1,300 children every single year. I think that was kind of their record year this past year, but 1,000 plus. And so we know that we're still in our, growing phases, but we know that, this is important work and people get behind us. The one thing that I failed to mention, when I first found out about this, this opportunity, it kind of just landed in my lap just accidentally. And I, read through the job description and whatnot. I was very happy at Christ the King. I wasn't looking for another job. I've been there 28 years. I loved what I was doing. But as I kind of read through the job description, I thought, maybe my oldest daughter, Katie, she said, you need to, give it a shot, why not? You've never tried anything else, but what really sold me is when I found out that this assistance would be for children regardless of their religion. They didn't have to be Catholic. You hope that, you can evangelize those that come in that are not, but that really the opportunity for families to be able to experience what's typically, a very strong education academically, strong in, the teachings of the gospel and, morals and values. Many of the Catholic schools are known for not having as many discipline issues. It's just a very, safe environment that's conducive to learning. And, if you're a non-Catholic, tuition is a lot more. And so that really cuts out a group of children that might be, in the low to moderate income, their families are in that income bracket and they don't have those opportunities. It's been, research has been done that this kind of education for especially this is where the research has been done with Latinos and African Americans. They can be so successful and move on to higher education, after having this kind of opportunity. So, we really want to increase our diversity in the Diocese of Lexington schools. Last year, I think it was about 18% of our school population was non-Caucasian. I'm not sure of the stat this year, but with everything just kind of being a little bit different. But it's, that part really spoke to me, that, we could really make a difference, not only in our parishioners' lives and, and the Catholic children's, parents, having that opportunity. So it's been a neat thing.
Now, the 27 children who've been helped this year. Now, will their families be receiving a grant year after year, or do they need to apply year by year?
Yeah, they reapply year by year. The way that we have it set up right now is we sent out letters and applications to all 12 principals. They have until April 1st to send some statistics back to us. A lot of the schools use what's called the FACTS management program for tuition. And that has that's where they apply for tuition assistance and whatnot. So families are not applying directly through us. They're going through their normal processes, the usual process through the school, how tuition assistance is applied for. This is just a fund to help grant more funds to the school to be able to distribute.
It's probably not a fair question because you haven't been in the position much in a non-pandemic time, but when things are normal, what would you project a typical week would be like for you in terms of your work, your ministry with this?
The one thing that has been tough now, Zoom and virtual meetings that, thank goodness, we have those. And that is, very, very helpful for these kinds of things. But really, getting out and meeting with people, many people are still working from home. They've not gone back into their businesses, or they're not comfortable going to restaurants and meeting for lunch or whatnot. But I really foresee that hopefully this summer really changing so that I can, during, those days, just really get out and meet people and tell our story.
Now, Cincinnati, Covington, Louisville, Kansas City, Los Angeles, it's a lot higher percentage of Catholicism in terms of the general population. What's it feel like to work with Catholic Education Opportunities Foundation in a diocese where Catholicism is such a minority, and therefore the number of Catholic schools? Say if we would compare the city of Covington with, or say the blend of Covington and well, let's say the three counties, Campbell, Boone, and Kenton up in northern Kentucky, with Fayette County and surrounding counties, it's unbelievable, you know, the difference in terms of the volume of Catholicism and the volume of Catholic schools. What's it feel like to work in this zone with such a low percentage of and low number of Catholic people in Catholic schools?
Well, I think that's why it was so important for the board to make the determination that this fund would, these assistance dollars could go to non-Catholics as well. Because if we were only focused on the Catholic children, then that would kind of narrow, you know, the focus of our donors. You know, they may or may not, you know, if they feel like, yes, they want to participate. But I think knowing that it impacts, we have one donor in particular that is not Catholic, but really, and it, you know, kind of had to go through the ranks of, you know, their home office in England, and you know, it was this big to do. But they're not religious, so really having to, you know, show them that, you know, this is for all children, any children, you know, especially those who come, you know, whose families, you know, are in that, you know, the underserved of our population. That really speaks to a lot of people. Education, you know, and really too, you know, the schools right now, because the Catholic schools have been in our area, and I think it's true across the states, have been in session during a time when the public schools are virtual learning. Now they're starting to go back, but you know, I think that has been a very good thing for the Catholic schools. I think that really has, you know, folks have really noticed them when they may not have even considered the, you know, Catholic education before. You know, that, hey, they can get these kiddos in school and do it safely. You know, maybe we want to try to be a part of that. So, you know, I think that, you know, speaks not only to families, but to potential donors as well.
Well, Kim, clarify too, there were 27 children and households helped so they could return to school or be in this now. Is funding available for somebody who's not in a Catholic school and wants to go to a Catholic school, or is it just for people who are in the Catholic school and facing financial issues?
That's a great question. No, it's a mixture of both.
Okay.
You want to continue to help, you know, folks, you know, and their financial picture sometimes changes in their, this, and I did fail to mention, this is a fund for K-8 schools.
Mhm.
And so Lexington Catholic is not included in this right now. We're set up very similarly to the Archdiocese of Louisville in that regard. But, you know, just being able to open our doors, and, you know, that's part of what we're working on right now. I've put together a communications and marketing team, some really dynamic folks that are helping, you know, us get this message, you know, really out there to lots of folks, especially those that think they're kind of stuck in, you know, whatever, you know, school that they're districted for, whether, you know, there's a lot of great public schools. I'm not knocking those at all, but, you know, maybe it's a school or a classroom situation that isn't working for their child. But just, you know, to kind of pull finances away from it a little bit. Now, we do have in our distribution policy, and the principals have to sign off on this, that we do not fund an entire year's tuition for a child. We want parents to have skin in the game. You know, when they're applying, they have to, you know, share their, you know, tax returns and whatnot. They have to be able to contribute, because we know that it will mean a lot more to them than just, you know, something kind of, you know, given out as, you know, here you go, free ride. So that makes a difference as well. And I think that was a really good thing that the board put in place.
Sure. It makes sort of a shared responsibility.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Kim, how does it break down, what you've seen so far in terms of the donors, personal or corporate help?
It's
Half
been a
and half, or?
Yeah, it's really been a good mixture of both. The one industry that's really jumped on board quickly is the banking industry. They really have, really supported us. I think they will support us in even a greater way with even more of that industry joining us. We have applied for some grants and have been successful recipients of those. I have made sure we do have Facebook, Instagram, getting ready to do Twitter. I'm still that I'm still learning a little bit, but and we have a website. Our website is www.ceoflex.org, and it lists our board members' names, our leadership council names. It has our logos of all the corporate sponsors, and we really plan to grow that. It has a page where you can donate just very easily, click of the button, and we are just so grateful for any assistance, large or small or large. So that, setting all of that up has been really a good thing and a positive thing. And, we were able to send out a brochure kind of, highlighting some of our things around Christmas time with our corporate sponsor logos and whatnot to all 13,000 households in the diocese. So that was really exciting because, when I first started, we put a press release out in the bulletins, but that went out the weekend that the churches shut down. So, and then, many of the churches, the bulletin wasn't even resurrected for a while, and, folks. So, there were so many that really didn't even know that this foundation had been created and existed. So that's really exciting. It's just really sharing the message. And I'm grateful to you for inviting me to be a part of your coffee, and, just every little thing that we can do to let folks know that we're out there.
For all of our listeners, Kim, just send us, the Deacon Tim or myself, the contact information for Catholic Education Opportunities Foundation. We'll get the word out in our bulletin or in our email blast, so that as people would be interested, we'd have the info for them.
Oh, that would be great. That would be wonderful.
Do you find yourself traveling to the different schools with this position?
Yes, great question.
What's it like to see them down in all different parts of the diocese? What's it like?
I know, it's crazy. So that was the one thing that I really focused on in February and beginning of March. I didn't feel like I could, I always, when I gave tours at Christ the King, I called it selling the place, that I was the realtor trying to make the sale. And I didn't feel like I could really go out and start asking donors to support something that I only knew Christ the King's story. I knew Mary Queen because my husband's family grew up in that parish and went to Mary Queen's the Holy Rosary School. So I knew both of their stories and how they operated. I had been in their schools, and in a couple of the other here in Lexington, but I didn't want to go out and tell the message to be Christ the King or Mary Queen or whatever. I needed to get into these other schools, and I'm so glad I did. It was the best investment of time. I was able to get into all but 3 of the schools before everybody shut down. I had arranged to go to the other 3, and we had to cancel because of the virtual learning. So I, this fall, did hop over to St. Leo's and had a lovely tour. And then I have 2 schools that, as soon as kind of things return to normal and they can accept visitors, whatnot, that I'll hit. But it was great because, as you know, Christ the King has the largest enrollment with our, fellow Catholic schools here in Lexington, right there with it. But really going to some of these schools outside of the city of Lexington, there are so many great things going on, wonderful teachers. I had asked the principals to give me a tour and to chat, for an hour. And, I really, that's how you get the feel of a place. That's how you figure out what's going on. The children are happy. You can tell there's a high level of learning. The administrators that I met, very strong and proud of their schools, and grateful, very grateful for our help. I think it really went a long way with them. We heard back from several of them in August that hey, there is somebody. It's not just a name, and you're out there just we're never going to see the results of this. So, I think it's just they're very supportive, and it was just it really made me very happy to visit those schools, and I'm anxious to go to Ashland and Paintsville when they're able to welcome me in the school.
Yeah, Paintsville School, that's in a one-time mansion. It's unbelievable to walk through that place. It's
Our Lady of the Mountains. Yes, I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
wait to visit. So that's been wonderful. And to see their communities, just to be, in Georgetown or Paris. I had lunch in Paris with the principal of St. Mary's. And, it was so neat, the small town, lots of folks coming up to say hello to the principal and meet, and she would introduce me. And, so those kinds of experiences, I think, just are really important. Relationship building is so critical at this time, so that folks know that we are out there to help.
At one time, the territory that's our diocese was part of the Diocese of Covington.
Mhm.
One of my favorite books to kind of browse through at different times is a history of the Diocese of Covington, written in 1950, and it names a lot of places that had parishes or missions that were based on the coal industry in Appalachia. And as the coal industry has certainly radically changed, so too has the church. Parishes have closed, and churches don't exist anymore, or congregations don't, and moved to another part of the county, and some of the schools have closed. The population has changed, and it seems to still be changing. I'm wondering, I don't know if it's a goal, but we don't want any school to be closed. But I don't know if your foundation is like going to be the savior of some schools, but it certainly can be of help. I don't know if you can comment on that one or not. It's so delicate. We know there's some small struggling schools. Some have closed in the last 5-10 years, and yet they are so appreciated when as they have a life. So again, can you comment in some way on that phenomenon?
I guess that happened right around the time that I jumped on board. One of our schools, it had to be closed at the end of the year for various reasons, and that really made me very sad, as when you hear about it in Louisville, which is where I was born, and there was Catholic school in every corner, and they've had to consolidate and whatnot. But it really, it also drives you to work hard. We're not going to, as you said, be able to save schools right now. But you hope in the future that you can make a big enough impact that, will really, relieve some of that pressure, and also, boost their enrollment. Not only the assistance, but, really filling those seats, so that there's a good, strong, backbone for the school to be able to continue.
I think again, just naming some of the stuff. In Lexington, there's 4 Catholic grade schools, and the enrollment sometimes moves from one place to the next, and we everybody wants everybody to be successful. Sometimes a school would say, gosh, if we had, 10 more students from, who are, feel a need to shift from one school to the next, we could be even stronger and all that. And, where whatever it is to work together, it's not ideal, but it's not the worst thing in the world either. That's for sure. But do you see the work of the foundation boosting the sense of unity, where it's almost in a sense we're saying, well, we want to be part of a successful team where there's different kind of players with different kind of characteristics and different locations, but we're all in this together. Do you see this, working to bring about a more positive, unified approach to Catholic school education in our city?
Right. Well, I always said as an admissions director that if we lost one of our students at Christ the King to another Catholic school in town, that was okay because they were still in the diocese. It's when you lost them, to another school, private or public, that, very often, they would not return. And so that, brought about, a lot of sadness for me. What I think has been so helpful, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, was, actually going to each school and making the time to walk around and talk with the principals and meet the teachers and, see the students. I think that they see the foundation. And like I said, once, we sent that first, distribution in August, that somebody is, of course they have support in the diocese and, our Catholic schools office, but, outside of that, really wanting to help, all of the schools, not just one school in particular, be successful. And, like I said, just, really, I do see them as supportive of one another. I've heard that their principals meetings, they had the Zoom principals meetings, maybe they're still doing that. But, I think that probably unified them, a little bit more because,
I
it's
think so too. Yeah.
it's
I've been part of those, and it's been a good spirit with that.
yeah.
Kim, what do you say to somebody, who's a member of a parish, and it doesn't have to be the city of Lexington, it be any place, and you're talking to them, and they say, well, granted, I'm capable of helping. My school at my parish is really struggling. I want to support them. How do you help them to do a both and rather than either or?
You have some great questions, Father Paul. I'm so impressed. Yes, we do have the ability for, if a donor wants to designate a school. Of course, we prefer, that they want to help all of the schools. But if they know that their school is struggling, or they have a passion for their school and its success and its future success, whatnot. Absolutely. We're finalizing an agreement right now so that the person who is the donor who is designating it for a specific school, it's like a contract of what, we will do. And, and they sign off on it, it all kind of is based on investments and, that kind of thing. So yes, absolutely. And, we are not officially part of the diocese, Bishop Stowe, like many of the bishops who in foundations that are across the United States. Typically the bishop is a part of that. Father Dan Knoll is a part of it. Of course, he's at Mary Queen as the rector of Mary Queen. But we are separate. We are a separate 501(c)(3). So we can take those donations and make sure they, and the other thing that we're really growing too, I just was thinking about this, we're growing the memorial scholarship. So let's say you want to donate in memory of, your parents, or in honor of, great Aunt Sue or whatever. We have that ability to have those scholarships separate and named and focused. Mary Queen has this. and they're kind of transitioning some things, and but they have several named scholarships. So folks, if they had a connection with a specific teacher, or, you know, like I said, a parent or a parishioner who was very involved, you know, that's a wonderful opportunity for folks to remember those people or honor them.
Kim, maybe one final question on the ministry that you have here, and that would be specifically that. How does it feel like a ministry more so than a job?
That is a really good question. Probably feels more like a ministry because you're having to seek out folks and spread the word and share your message. And who doesn't love children? You know, if they have funds to donate, a lot of times people want to give to educational, you know, give some educational dollars to help, you know, folks. This really can make a difference in our communities. It can make a big impact on, you know, relieving some of the numbers of people that, you know, are in public schools, or, you know, so I think, you know, community leaders and donors that, you know, maybe have businesses or whatnot, they see that, you know, this can make a difference in their community, and in Frankfurt or Versailles, you know, Paris, wherever, not just, you know, a larger city like Lexington, Ashland, you know, Paintsville. So to me, it's very much, I do a lot of praying. So there's the, you know, that aspect of it, you know, just asking for guidance from the Holy Spirit. I have been just so blessed to meet so many new people outside of the circle, you know, of what my bubble that I was in for so long. So we just have some fantastic people, not only in our diocese, but also in our communities.
Kim, you know, again, not to belabor it or to label you too much, but I see what you do is prophetic, helping people to see what's not always obvious, helping people to appreciate the good news, so doing some evangelizing, and certainly a servant. So thank you so much for that ministry. We've talked about your life in the world of education, and also we talked a little bit about Oktoberfest and Big Blue Fling, but also as a parishioner, you're involved in a project that's pretty exciting for all of us as parishioners. You know, one of our key places is Heman Hall, and we're in the midst of getting ready to renovate the hall. And what led to your desire to be part of that committee that's working with guiding that renovation?
Well, I'm sure the committee would rather that I did not join, because I'm kind of opinionated. You probably don't know that about me, but no. So I started teaching in 1992. Heman Hall was built, I believe, in 93. My classroom at the time overlooked the courtyard. And so, you know, we had this, I grew up where it was just a large parking lot. Heman Hall was not, you know, the gym wasn't there. Heman Hall was just, it was just the parking lot where we went out and played every day. And so
there was like a concrete floor gym in the church basement, I think.
Yes, that's why I'm not very athletic, because it had a really low ceiling and we were never allowed to bounce those balls very high because we would knock the lights out.
Yeah.
So, but yes, it was in the church basement where the Parish Life Center is now. But anyway, so, you know, on the weekends I would go in to work, and it happens so often. There would be a bride and a photographer, and, you know, bridal parties out there getting their photographs taken. The hall was booked just almost all the time, between wedding receptions, meetings, retirement parties. It was just very much a well-loved, you know, lived-in space, and it has been for many years. But it's become worn down. You know, there weren't funds for remodeling. And gosh, our parishioners just really stepped up with taking care of our spiritual house. I was part of the stewardship committee of the Capitol campaign, and it was just absolutely amazing to me that, people really stepped up in that campaign to make the necessary repairs to our house to have it, go far into the future. And so I love a good decorating, opportunity, working with a fantastic group of people. So
Who are the members of the committee?
Joe Dahl is the chairperson. Our two members of the staff at Christ the King, Joe Sanford and Jamie West, who have been invaluable in just coordinating everything. Will Megan, he went to Christ the King himself. His mother taught at Christ the King for many years. He's helping on the committee. And then I've kind of called us named us the Three Musketeers, because we're all into carpet samples and paint. And, I've been in, both restrooms 100 times. So it's like we get down and dirty, but Stephanie Hall and Julie Preston and myself. But our committee, has really put in a lot of time, really looking at the hardscape of Christ the King, whether it's the limestone walls or the green floor. And, we're picking out selecting things that will enhance what we can't change. We are watching every single dollar. Tim's helping us with the AV part of the project. And, he knows we're just, we're watching every dollar so we can stretch it, and cover as much as we can. So the painting starts next week. We're getting ready to take out.
Next week. Wow.
Yeah, we're this week, tomorrow, we're going to, or this weekend, we're going to take down, all the pictures and move everything. And then the carpeting will follow after that. We've decided to go with carpet squares, which you see in airports and that kind of thing, so that if there is an issue with it, we're not having to replace the entire thing. We can, insert a new square. We are remodeling the bathrooms. I'm sure, everybody's cheering about that. So new cabinetry, we're putting in some handicap accessible sinks and painting in there, new countertops. We are having some custom cabinetry built that we're putting on wheels. We have 2 of these. So instead of dragging out the white, long tables every weekend for mass, when folks walk through Heman Hall, we have these beautiful cabinets that have some storage. They can, groups can store their things in during the week, and then, or another group can use the cabinetry. The Knights have purchased one of the cabinets for their use and have offered to loan that to other groups as needed. So we've got a really, some cool architectural things that we're doing that involve our, some of the things we took out of the bell tower. And we have our wonderful photographer, Mo, who's helping us with some photographs. And so I think it's really going to be, our hope is that a lot of it will be ready by Easter. We're putting up a new stage curtain, so that's being worked on right now. But we really see that as a time that, a lot of folks will come back to church, will feel better as the vaccinations roll out, and feel like that, it's kind of our key time. So,
it's kind of a sort of like a living out of the springtime, and a great example of and stimulus, I guess, as we enter spring, as we hopefully are in the downturn, radically speaking, of the plague, the pandemic, and able to really use Heman Hall as it's been designed to be.
Yes, we want to see it rented again or used, just, really filling it with life. We really have taken a lot of care to think things, we're hoping to have a little seating area so folks can, have a donut after mass, or maybe they have a small meeting, and they have comfortable, kind of lounge seating, and it just will make the space. We want the space to just to feel more welcoming to folks and not so sterile, and like I said, and worn down. So everything will be very purposeful. We have been, talking with different groups that use the space, and we really want to make sure that folks are very happy. We are going to be kind of like we'll still be going through after everything is done, just to make sure that it stays as as well maintained as we can. We really think that lots of groups can use the space as it's intended, but we all have to do our part to keep it, just looking nice.
Anything different going to be done with the kitchen?
That's actually what we've put for phase 2. There are a couple of things that we need to do in the kitchen, but they're very costly. So what we decided to do with phase 1 dollars is just to really see where we can make the biggest impact, rather than taking so many dollars out and then just being able to do a few little things. So we've talked to a local caterer who's a parishioner, and we're fine in the kitchen for now. It does need to be addressed, and that's what we really intend, is this not to end with just this phase 1. We've started our little list, and Tim is part of that with some of the AV that we have a lot of hopes and dreams, but everything we need to do right now needs to be to get us back kind of, up and running, and then address kind of those phase 2 needs. And hopefully those phase 2 needs will, come as a result of, folks that, would like to take part in, certain areas of donation for that, but also rental income from, wedding receptions and whatnot.
Well, what do your parents, your husband and kids think of all that you do with the church?
Well, they, John and I were very blessed. I don't know if I mentioned this, but, kind of laugh. I was a kinger growing up. He was a queener. And so us having to decide, where our children were going to go to school, it was a discussion or two when we were first having children. Our oldest will be 25 in a few weeks. And, we really had to think of those things. But finally, I think what sold him is that I was going to be at the school. So let's just send him, it's kind of, it really was a blessing to be, at that time I couldn't be a stay-at-home mom, but I was still I was still with my children all day and could take part in a lot of different things that I may not have been able to. We've been in different schools. I think they and my parents, who are still parishioners, and my brother and his family, I think everyone was pretty surprised when I left Colony and Cochrane, since I had been there, as I like to say, since God was a boy. But, I think that they really see the importance of this kind of work. And so, it's been a very interesting year.
Well, your parents have certainly been part of the life of the parish for a long time, and I'm sure they're proud of you, and I'm sure you're grateful for them. In terms
Yes.
of
Oh, absolutely.
they've
Yes.
given you by their love and example.
Yes. They still are, like I said, members of the parish, and it's been wonderful that my brother Mike Dugan and his wife Beth have sent their children, Charlie and Evelyn, to Christ the King. And so that's been a blessing to have the 5 Dugan grandchildren go all the way through Christ the King School and Lexington Catholic. So that is that sacrifice was definitely well worth it.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much. Deacon Tim, any questions come in, or do you have any questions or comments from your end?
There's just one comment that came in from Eula Marie Benson. And she says, "Hi, Miss Thompson. My son Michael remembers you as a great teacher at Christ the King, and so happy that you provide closed captioned. Thanks so much, Marie."
Yeah, she's wonderful. Thank you, Marie. Oh.
Yeah. So there you go. That's what we got. That was the comment I had right at this point.
We're pretty much at the point of conclusion, I think, aren't we, Deacon Tim?
Yeah, we're right in there in 10:57. We're getting close.
Wow,
Okay.
that hour really flew.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, thank you so much, and thanks for your dedication and what you give to the church and the big sense of the word, and I appreciate too the unifying work that you're really involved in. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for the opportunity to be able to share the good news about the foundation.
Yeah, yeah. Well, next week our guest will be Don Clemmer. Don Clemmer is the Director of Communications for our diocese. He's the editor of Crossroads magazine, and we'll be talking about his ministry next week. Again, I think it's going to be kind of an interesting, fascinating program. There was a time, I think, in my history as somebody within the church, that we wouldn't think of having somebody as a diocesan director of communications, and the church newspaper would be edited by a priest who had maybe an extra class in English in college, and it's just a whole different level of professionalism that's called for in these days, and he's risen to the occasion in a wonderful way. So we'll look forward to the conversation with him on a variety of topics. So I'll just say that it's been wonderful to talk with you, Kim. I mentioned off camera before we began that I had my second vaccine yesterday, and so I'm happy to have that behind me. And I think all of us who arrive at that point, feel really, really grateful and hopeful as we move forward. I felt a little bit sluggish as the morning was going on, but our talk together has energized me. So Kim, thanks for being part of the therapy.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, and we'll just.
So Kim, is your mom's name Helen by any chance?
It is Helen.
Okay, mom's praying. She wanted to. She's just on here. She had the praying hand. So mom's in the boat here.
Right.
Oh, she's down in sunny Florida.
Oh, they on the beach watching, huh? Yeah.
All right. Well,
Good.
sorry she's not at the Riviera. I was hoping we'd be able to go international someday, but.
All right. Well, everybody have a great day, and we'll see you back here next Thursday at 10 o'clock for the next edition of the Parish Coffee Hour with Father Paul